Check your heart rate right now. Not after your run. Not during a workout. Right now, sitting here watching this. If it is above 70, your body is quietly working overtime. Every single minute, every hour, every night while you sleep. Your heart is firing more than it needs to, and it has been doing it for years. Here is what nobody is measuring at your annual checkup. That number on your smartwatch may be the single most accurate predictor of how long you are going to live. More than your cholesterol, more than your blood pressure, more than your age. In the next 8 minutes, you are going to understand exactly why and what to do about it starting this week. Resting heart rate is simply how many times your heart beats per minute when you are completely still. The right moment to check it. Tomorrow morning before you get out of bed, before your phone, before your coffee, before you move. That number is your true cardiovascular baseline. The medical books say 60 to 100 beats per minute is normal. But here is the problem with normal. It is not the same as good. For longevity, the research points to 40 to 60 as the meaningful target. Elite endurance athletes often sit between 35 and 50, not because of genetics, but because they trained their heart to become more efficient. Picture your heart as a pump. The better it gets at each contraction, the fewer times it needs to fire. Fewer fires means less wear, and less wear, compounded across decades, means more years. Your resting heart rate is already in your health app. Most people have never thought about what it is telling them. Here is where the science gets uncomfortable. Dr. Peter Attia, a physician who has spent decades analyzing mortality data, describes cardiorespiratory fitness as the single most important modifiable predictor of how long and how well you will live. Not your diet, not your supplements, your fitness. And resting heart rate is its most direct, most accessible signal. The numbers are hard to ignore. Moving from the lowest fitness category to even below average is associated with a 50% reduction in all-cause mortality. Not 50% lower risk of heart disease, 50% lower risk of dying from anything. Moving to above average, 70%. And the elite category, the top 2 or 3%, have roughly 5 times lower mortality risk than those at the bottom. 5 times. Let that land. These effects are larger than quitting smoking, larger than treating high blood pressure. And here is the part that stops people cold. Cardiorespiratory fitness predicts your death more accurately than your age. How fit you are matters more to how long you live than how old you are. So what is actually happening inside a heart with a low resting rate? 2 things. Stroke volume and vagal tone. Dr. Andy Galpin, one of the leading researchers on cardiovascular adaptation, explains it this way. A trained heart pumps more blood with every single beat. It does not need to fire as often to keep the oxygen moving. Less effort, same result. Structurally more efficient. In exactly the same way, a powerful engine uses less fuel at idle than a weak one. The second piece is your vagus nerve, the primary brake of your entire nervous system. Dr. Andrew Huberman at Stanford has documented how a strong vagus nerve physically slows your heart rate at rest and keeps your body in a calm, regulated state. When that brake weakens, from chronic stress, from bad sleep, from years of sitting, your resting heart rate climbs. Quietly, persistently, without any obvious symptoms. A low resting heart rate is not just a sign of a fit heart. It is a sign of a nervous system that knows how to regulate itself. Here is what is pushing your number higher right now. Chronic stress keeps your sympathetic nervous system, your internal gas pedal, floored around the clock. Cortisol and adrenaline hold your heart rate up, even when you are doing nothing. Poor sleep makes it worse. Research consistently shows fragmented sleep elevates resting heart rate for days afterward. And sedentary behavior means your heart never gets the aerobic signal that forces it to adapt and become more efficient. 3 drivers, all modifiable. And one specific type of training targets all 3 at once. Dr. Iñigo San Millán, a physiologist at the University of Colorado who has trained some of the world's best endurance athletes, calls it Zone 2. And his research on it is some of the most compelling in all of exercise science. Here is the relief. You do not need brutal sprints. You do not need to suffer. Zone 2 is the highest aerobic intensity you can sustain, while your body keeps lactate below 2 millimoles per liter. In practice, that is a pace where you can hold a full conversation, but would not want to sing. A brisk walk uphill, steady cycling, easy swimming. That is it. At this specific intensity, your mitochondria are pushed to multiply. Your heart's left ventricle physically remodels over time. Each contraction ejects more blood, and your resting heart rate comes down. The protocol from the research: at least 45 minutes per session, 3 to 4 times per week, 150 minutes total per week. Unglamorous, effective, backed by data. 5 actions. Start this week. 1. Begin Zone 2. 3 sessions, 45 minutes each. Incline walking counts. Start there. 2. Track your resting heart rate every morning for 5 days before you get out of bed. Write it down. That is your real baseline. 3. Add 1 Zone 5 session per week, 4 to 8 rounds of 1 minute hard, 1 minute easy. This raises your aerobic ceiling and accelerates the overall adaptation. 4. Practice 4-7-8 breathing for 5 minutes each evening. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Huberman's research shows this directly trains vagal tone and lowers resting heart rate over time. 5. Protect your sleep. Your resting heart rate is measured in the morning. What happened the night before is written into that number. Here is the bottom line. Your resting heart rate is not a fitness stat. It is a live summary of how efficiently your heart works, how well your nervous system regulates itself, and how your body is actually aging, right now, tonight, while you sleep. And it changes. With the right training, measurably, persistently, and faster than most people expect. Check it tomorrow. Write it down. Start Zone 2 this week. Measure again in 60 days. Subscribe if this landed. New longevity science every week. No supplements, no agenda, just the data. Next week, an animal that barely gets cancer, that lives 10 times longer than anything its size, and whose longevity gene researchers just successfully transferred into another mammal. The science is real, and what it means for you may be more significant than anything we have covered on this channel so far. See you then.